Let's talk about how you can dress the part and build a signature work wardrobe that reflects your personal brand. Grab your cup of tea and let's dive into it. Your personal brand isn't all about your profiles and your posts. It is about how you show up in every interaction, online and offline. And when it comes to your your style communicates for your personal brand. So, what is your personal style communicating for your professional brand? Is it communicating what you want it to be, or can it potentially be elevated to become more of a memorable moment for your personal brand? Today, I want to talk about the 4 ways that you can build your professional style to also reflect your personal brand goals and the impression that you want to leave. So, let's dive into tip number 1. Tip number 1 is to dress for the job that you have. We like to say that we don't judge a book by a cover, but we do. It is a really nice idea, but the science tells us otherwise. It shows that first impressions are formed within seconds, and in some cases, this has been shown to be formed within a tenth of a second, which means that people are likely judging you before you have even said a word. So it's likely that your personal style is going to be contributing to that snap judgment that people are making. And what is even more important about these snap judgments that people make about us is that usually those judgments are actually lasting, meaning that we double down on that initial impression. And this is where it's really important to think about what your professional style is communicating for you. Is it helping or is it hurting your credibility and what it is that you want to represent? When I first started working in personal brand coaching, personal style was actually something that many people in the corporate world talked about right off the bat to begin with. This is their impression of what personal branding was really importantly related to. And I guess what surprised me, which I probably shouldn't be, was that a lot of these conversations were actually with men who were in very corporate roles. And they would really discuss with me how much they thought personal branding was particularly important when it came to your personal style in the workplace. And a lot of them had developed this opinion because of instances in which they had felt that their colleagues or people that they were managing had potentially done a bit of a disservice to their own personal brands by the way that they had turned up in professional scenarios. So, for example, being dressed really casually in scenarios where there is more of an expectation to have a slightly elevated, more appropriate professional attire for that particular situation. And what resonated with me was that this was clearly an impression, negative impressions that were left on those people by the individuals that they felt had broken this almost implicit code of conduct when it came to professional style in certain scenarios. So, to begin with, I want to highlight to make sure that you are dressing for the job that you have. So, dress appropriately for the context to make sure that you are leaving the impression that you want to be leaving and one that adds to your credibility as well. And what I think is also nice to consider is if you are actually aligning to the vibe of your industry altogether. Are you matching the vibe? For example, if you work in a more creative space, or a creative field, but you are always turning up in a really stiff corporate traditional 9 to 5 work style, then just ask yourself if there is an opportunity to maybe actually just embrace more of the space that you are in and align with that particular industry. But there is a caveat to this, which leads me into tip number 2, which is dress for the job that you want. You might have heard the saying to dress for the job that you want, not for the job that you have. Now, I've talked about the importance of still considering the appropriateness of dressing for the job that you have. But I do think if you are going to rebel against the norm or the traditional conventions of your particular profession or your industry, then it is an interesting approach if you are doing it with intention. For example, if you maybe have a really traditional corporate 9 to 5, but you aspire to work in a much more creative industry space, then why not, within the appropriate boundaries, of course, infuse your creativity into your daily style as a part of your professional brand. So, in a way, this becomes a little bit of an opportunity to, I guess, manifest the career that you want, or the industry that you want to work in, or the role that you want to have, by just making sure that you don't necessarily just conform to the complete style that other people have in that particular industry that you are currently in, and you're showing up as that person that you really want to be in your career going forward. Again, just within the appropriate boundaries of your particular workplace and what is acceptable. But I think it's a nice opportunity to dress for the job that you want. My tip number 3 is to adopt a signature color. So if you follow this channel, you would know that I'm a big fan of creating consistency when it comes to your personal brand, including through the use of colors. Now, this is simply about taking a usual marketing branding approach and applying it to your personal brand. And what you'll probably find is that your personal brand has a palette of colors like other brands do, that you use as a part of your personal branding communications, for example, or as part of your personal style. But what I think is just such a nice touch when it comes to a professional personal brand style is when people take this to the next level of adopting a signature color for their personal brand. So this is more than just having a consistent color palette. This is about saying, well, I'm all about pink, or I'm all about yellow, or I'm navy blue, whatever it is. You might be able to guess what mine is if you have watched my YouTube videos. But really just embracing what that color is and just making that such a key part of your look. So this is almost like when you think about, a Tiffany and Co blue being a recognizable color, a Cadbury purple. And I'm not saying that you have to use those colors. What I'm saying is that in the marketing branding world is that you immediately identify those particular colors as being associated to that particular product or brand. And I think when it comes to your personal brand, it's just a really exciting opportunity to just have fun with your personal brand, just take it to that other level. And if you have a signature color that you have always loved wearing, or it's a part of your branding material that you have, and it's a color that actually looks good on you or that you feel good wearing, then why not start to adopt that more consistently as a part of your wardrobe? And I've worked in sport, for example, in industries where people in leadership roles would really take on the approach of wearing the particular colors associated with the teams that we represented. And whatever it is that you are trying to apply it to, I just think it becomes a much more memorable moment again for your personal brand when people know that they can expect you to be associated with a particular thing. And when you are picking what your signature color might be, which hopefully doesn't have to be something that you have to necessarily work really hard to figure it out, it's likely going to be a color that you've just always felt great about wearing or engaging with. It's just a color that makes you feel good, especially if it's something that you want to adopt really consistently going forward. But when you are picking that color, just also think about the various connotations of that color, which is something that I talk about on this channel a lot as well. So what does that particular color represent? Because as humans, we have been conditioned to associate particular colors to certain meanings, and just ask yourself if that particular color and what its natural connotations are is something that you want to be aligned with. And my tip number 4 is to adopt a signature element. So Steve Jobs had his turtlenecks, Anna Wintour has her sunglasses, and this idea of a signature element also reminds me of a university professor that I had who was always wearing a particular style of vest, but multiple different versions of it. And this just made me think that the idea of a signature element can just really apply to absolutely anyone, no matter what your industry, no matter what your personal style. You can find a way to communicate consistently for your personal brand through a signature element. Now, to give you just some ideas of what a signature element might be, it could be, for example, your style of jewelry. You might have a particular style that you are naturally always gravitating towards, and this becomes a signature style in your professional look. Maybe it's really big, bold statement necklaces, maybe it's more fine gold jewelry, maybe it's, you're all about silver or whatever it is, maybe it's the watch style that you have, but it's something that you can consistently adopt across your professional style. It could also, for example, be a signature element in terms of a signature garment. As I mentioned, my university professor who had their vest, you might be known for your suits, or tailored jackets, or just any scarves, maybe just any element that is a particular element that you are adopting consistently as a part of your look. You might, for example, be known for a signature print, so maybe you are all about the black and white prints, and you just have lots of variations of this concept as a part of your look. Maybe you're about stripes, about polka dots, whatever it is, but you can find a way to just make that a memorable, recognizable moment for your personal brand. Maybe it is the particular textures of the wardrobe that you have. So maybe you're all about the cashmere tops, or the silks or satins. Maybe you're about the suedes or the leather, or whatever texture appeals to your personal brand, but starting to incorporate that in a more consistent way. I mentioned scarves and jewelry before, but you might just have signature accessories in general. It could be as simple as you're known for your headbands, or particular style of headwear, like Blair Waldorf on Gossip Girl with her headbands, for example. You might have a signature style of shoe that you are known for as well. Or you could potentially also have a signature silhouette. So this might be, as I mentioned, you're all about the oversized blazers, for example, as a part of your look. Or you have a certain structure dress that you always like to wear to the workplace, and you just become known for this particular silhouette. So you start to have a recognizable personal brand in that sense. What I really like about having a signature style when it comes to your personal professional brand is that it shows a sense of clarity and confidence. So it's not necessarily always just about whatever that particular style is and if it actually resonates with other people, but it shows that you're intentional about it. It shows that you understand yourself and what you want to represent, what you're confident in representing, and the fact that you are able to do that consistently as well, when so many people are just always, chopping and changing or buying into the latest trends. It shows that you actually understand yourself enough to just have that clarity about your professional personal brand, and you have the confidence to show up consistently in a particular way as well. And of all of the things that I mentioned in terms of the signature elements, obviously if you could come up with one element that is a little bit more recognizable as being associated to you, then that is great. But if you can find a way to actually, across all of those elements, come up with what your signature style is, then you're just going to have a really cohesive look overall in all of your interactions, which I think just can take that to a whole other level too. So when it comes to your personal brand, don't forget about the personal style that you represent as a part of your personal brand and the impact that this can have on your professional impressions. If you want to learn more about personal branding, then subscribe for more like this, and I'll see you in the next episode.